I'm not ready at all. Well, hello everybody, welcome to today's video. Today we're going to be drawing, not Red Riding Hood, no, but we're keeping on that kind of theme of Red Riding Hood, because yesterday the word was coat, and today, because we're in Inktober, day 28, I thought we'd carry on that theme with red riding, because the word is ride today. But first, I'm going to show you quickly what I have been doing so far. And we've got on day 2 was mindless, day 3 was bait, day 4 was freeze, day 4 day 5 build. I do already. Day 5 build, and we will be back on Mixer tonight to finish this one off. If you don't know what that is, that's my sleep station, that's my flight to tower, and that's me flying over it and put some more glass towards the top, because we're going to be building it all the way to the build height. But tonight might be a little bit of a Halloween special, because we've got to heal our villagers that are zombies. Anyway, that was day 5. Day 6, we've got Husky. Day 7 was meant to be enchanted. I read it wrong and thought it said enhanced. May I see that to yourself? It is not available because the playlist I was the audiobook I was listening in the background was Blade Runner, and apparently that gives you copyright. And then we've got day 8, which was Frail, and day 9, which was Swing. One of my favorite things I've ever drawn. I've actually put this one on the back of my phone, and I will be digitizing this one as soon as I'm available to do so. And then day 10, which was very far away now, we did the word pattern. And if you know what that pattern is, then let me know, because it is over on Netflix. If you guys like snowmen, this is an abominable snowman. Not from anything particular, just the word was snow for day 11. Day 12 was dragon, where I drew a dragon. And again, I'm going to be digitizing this one and probably be available for you guys to put it down on the back of your phones like I've got mine. Then day 13 was Ash. That's the end scene from God of War. One of my favorite games. And yeah, check out all the God of War, because there's quite a bit on my channel. Checking the playlists. On day 14 was Overgrown, and I did something for Maleficent, and yeah, the overgrown thorns that she creates for Sleeping Beauty. Day 15 was I Am Legend, or actually say the word was Legend. I drew the cover from I Am Legend, and again, I'm taking this inspiration from that. Really enjoyed that, and I'm going to be listening to another playlist today. But that playlist was pretty good. If you guys want to go check that one out, again, we got another DVD cover for the Where the Wild Things Are, and that was day 16. Day 17, the word was ornament, where I didn't want to do a Christmas ornament. I got an ornament off the side of my shelf, and I drew that one. I hopefully enjoyed that one. I really did. And then I start to relax back a bit more on day 18, and we did the word was Misfit, and I did the Beano version of Dennis the Menace. That's the English, not the American. Then we've got on day 19, the word was sling, and I wanted to keep, instead of a sling for an arm, I wanted to keep with a sling as in a slingshot. Bit of a Robin Hood theme going on there. On this one, which is day, and I've lost the day again, day 20, which was, well, a few days ago now. Yeah, we did that one, and the word was, I don't know what the word was. Oh, treads. So I did the treads in the sand, my two favorite people walking beside me on the beach. And then on day, I've lost the thing, so I'm just going to go back quickly. 1920, or we're on 2021. The word was treasure. And you can see the leprechaun standing on his treasure. But what is this doing here? I'm still leaving you guys. Let me know what you think he's doing. And then the day 22 was, or was it 23? No, 22 was Ghost. And I did the word, so I drew the Ghost Rider. I was going to put him riding the motorbike, but I thought the bike was going to take me a bit too long, and I wanted to do a skull, to be honest with you. And when it's on fire, well, there you go. There's a Ghost Rider. Then day 23 was Ancient, and I did one of the ancientest stories or first bits of film that they actually created, which was Nosferatu. If you haven't seen that film yet, go and watch it. It's weird. Yeah, that was day 23. Then we get into the open heart challenge, where I did ask you guys to head over to Instagram and show me some support over there. And then we got, so that word was sleepy? No, dizzy. That word was dizzy. And then we get in the second day, which was tasty. And we're keeping on thing with the doctor. If you can see in the corner there, the doctor's put me asleep, but he's let his creations take a good old munch. It sounds like somebody's turning up on my door, guys. So I might have to end this one and come back in the next 10 minutes or so. But we'll see how that goes. And then we're not going to be able to do anything with the dog in the background. Of course, my friends help them turn up. Great. Goody. Right, okay, so then we've got the last day of the open heart challenge. And again, I'm keeping on theme. If you guys know, dog, chill the frick out. Now. Just come in, mate. And then on day, where we are, we're on, what day we got to? I'm all confused. Okay, we got today, what day was that? What day are we on? We're on 28, 27, yeah, so day 26, which was the open heart challenge. Did a bit of a dark picture because the word was dark. Sure, just come in, mate. You'll calm down. And then on day 27, the word was red. What was it? Coat. So I did a little bit of a Red Riding Hood. Again, we're keeping on with the Red Riding Hood sort of theme as we're going Red, Dead, Redemption. We've got playlists in the background. I'm going to get that one started so I can chat to my friend in a second. I'll be back in a moment, but I will be drawing that cover, guys. So keep tuned.
Chapter 1 of Black Beauty. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Corey Samuel.
Stop him if you want. I'm going to start in a second.
His Grooms and Companions. The Autobiography of a Horse. Translated from the original Ekman by Anna Sewell. Part 1. Chapter 1. My Early Home. The first place that I can well remember was a large, pleasant meadow with a pond of clear water in it. Some shady trees leaned over it, and rushes and water lilies grew at the deep end. Over the hedge on one side, we looked into a ploughed field, and on the other we looked over a gate at our master's house, which stood by the roadside. At the top of the meadow was a grove of fir trees, and at the bottom a running brook overhung by a steep bank. While I was young, I lived upon my mother's milk, as I could not eat grass. In the daytime I ran by her side, and at night I lay down close by her. When it was hot, we used to stand by the pond in the shade of the trees, and when it was cold, we had a nice warm shed near the grove. As soon as I was old enough to eat grass, my mother used to go out to work in the daytime and come back in the evening. There were 6 young colts in the meadow besides me. They were older than I was. Some were nearly as large as grown-up horses. I used to run with them and had great fun. We used to gallop all together round and round the field as hard as we could go. Sometimes we had rather rough play, for they would frequently bite and kick as well as gallop. One day, when there was a good deal of kicking, my mother whinnied to me to come to her, and then she said, "I wish you to pay attention to what I'm going to say to you. The colts who live here are very good colts, but they are cart horse colts, and of course they have not learned manners. You have been well bred and well born. Your father has a great name in these parts, and your grandfather won the cup 2 years at the Newmarket races. Your grandmother had the sweetest temper of any horse I ever knew, and I think you have never seen me kick or bite. I hope you will grow up gentle and good, and never learn bad ways. Do your work with a good will, lift your feet up well when you trot, and never bite or kick, even in play. I have never forgotten my mother's advice. I knew she was a wise old horse, and our master thought a great deal of her. Her name was Duchess, but he often called her Pet. Our master was a good, kind man. He gave us good food, good lodging, and kind words. He spoke as kindly to us as he did to his little children. We were all fond of him, and my mother loved him very much. When she saw him at the gate, she would neigh with joy, and trot up to him. He would pat and stroke her, and say, "Well, old Pet, and how is your little darky?" I was a dull black, so he called me Darky. Then he would give me a piece of bread, which was very good, and sometimes he bought a carrot for my mother. All the horses would come to him, but I think we were his favourites. My mother always took him to town on a market day in a light gig. There was a ploughboy, Dick, who sometimes came into our field to pluck blackberries from the hedge. When he had eaten all he wanted, he would have what he called fun with the colts, throwing stones and sticks at them to make them gallop. We did not much mind him, for we could gallop off, but sometimes a stone would hit and hurt us. One day he was at this game, and did not know that the master was in the next field, but he was there, watching what was going on. Over the hedge he jumped in a snap, and catching Dick by the arm, he gave him such a box on the ear as made him roar with the pain and surprise. As soon as we saw the master, we trotted up nearer to see what went on. "Bad boy," he said, "bad boy to chase the colts. This is not the first time, nor the second, but it shall be the last. There, take your money and go home. I shall not want you on my farm again." So we never saw Dick any more. Old Daniel, the man who looked after the horses, was just as gentle as our master, so we were well off. End of chapter 1. Chapter 2 of Black Beauty. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Black Beauty by Anna Sewell. Chapter 2. The Hunt. Before I was 2 years old, a circumstance happened which I have never forgotten. It was early in the spring. There had been a little frost in the night, and a light mist still hung over the woods and meadows. I and the other colts were feeding at the lower part of the field, when we heard, right in the
Well,
distance,
yeah, I suppose, yeah.
it sounded like the cry of dogs.
Probably was partly my fault.
The oldest of the colts
Oh,
raised
God,
his
you mean I
head,
can't.
pricked
Oh,
his
yeah,
ears, and said, "There are the
I'll be there in a
hounds."
moment, guys. As you can tell, my friends are turn up, and I'm
Followed by the
having a bit of
rest us
time.
to the upper part of the field,
What do you think of
where
that?
we
Let me know in
could
the
look
comment
over
section.
hedge and see several fields beyond. My mother and an old riding horse of our master's were also standing near, and seemed to know all about it.
Hope you enjoy your drawing.
They had found a
I'll see
hare,
it when it
said my
locks up
mother.
on something later.
And if they
It goes
come
on
this
YouTube
way,
and
we shall
stuff
see the
again.
hunt.
Oh, you've been following on.
And
Well,
soon,
they always
dogs were
pop up.
all
and stuff,
tearing
so,
down the field of young wheat next to ours.
like your game
I
ones
never
always
heard
pop
such
up
a
on
noise
the
as they
PlayStation.
made.
You haven't played
They
Red
did
Dead
not
lately.
bark,
Yeah.
nor howl,
Fuck me.
nor
Oh,
whine,
it's class, isn't it?
but kept on
Very hard. Keep dying. Losing my hat. Gamma, keep losing my hat.
at the top of their
My
voices.
fucking hat.
If you go back to your
After them
page,
came a
just
number
put it
of
back
men
on
on
again.
horseback, some of
No,
them in
pick it
green
up every
coats,
time.
all galloping as fast as they could.
Just to let you know.
The old horse
Cowboy can't
snorted
ride
and
without
looked
his hat on,
eagerly
So
after them,
if you go
and
onto
we
your
young
D-pad,
colts
I think
wanted
there's
to
a
be
hat
galloping
on
with them.
there. Put it back
There
on.
is,
They
not
were
always.
soon away into the
Oh, if
fields
he leaves
lower
it, there
down.
isn't.
Ah,
Here
okay.
it seemed as if they had
I'll
come to
never
a
do that.
stand,
Yeah. I've had
The
something in
dogs
my hat.
left
I'm
off
like, I can't
barking
find my hat.
and
Where's my
ran
hat
about
gone?
every
Must have
way with
lost
their
it. I was
noses
looking
to the
fucking
ground.
idiot looking for it. I was like,
They had lost the
screw it.
scent,
I'll
said the
I'll
old
let that
horse.
presence hat and then
Perhaps
like
the
when
hare
I'm
will
riding
get
about. Oh, he's got a good hat.
What's that?
Have that one.
Oh, I don't know what's that.
Right, mate.
Likely enough, it may be one of our own hares out of the woods. Any hare they can find will do for the
Later or
dogs
whenever.
or men to
Bye,
run
everyone.
after. And before long, dogs began their yo, yo, whoa, whoa again, and back they came all together at full speed, taking
Right,
from it
okay.
at the part where the
So
high
that's
bank
done.
and hedge
So shall
overhang
we
the brook.
get away now?
Now we shall see the hare.
Now we're going to start drawing.
And just then,
Probably will do some hair as well.
Rushed by and made for the woods.
Okay, so you've seen the cover.
On
So you know what I'm going to
the
be drawing,
beds,
everybody.
with beds over the bank. Let
So
the stream
now let's start
confession
drawing it.
across
We're going to be
the fields,
using my...
followed by the huntsmen. 6 or 8
Oh
men
God, where are
whipped
they?
their horses clean over, close upon the dogs.
Where are my pens? Ah,
The
Yeah.
hare tried to get through the fence. It was too thick, and she turned sharp round to make them
where
go.
are my
But it was too
pens?
The dogs were upon her with their wild cries. We heard one shriek,
Here are my pens.
and that was the end of her.
Yeah, so I'm going to be using
One of the huntsmen rode up
my
and whipped off the dogs, who would soon have torn her to pieces.
normal pens that I've been
He held her up
doing.
by the leg,
I'm just going to
torn
pause
and
that a second,
bleeding.
guys.
and all the gentlemen seemed
Mine's a bit blurred. Okay, quick apology message. Didn't expect my friend to be turning up as quickly as he did. So yeah, he's gone and picked up something that I've needed to give him. He's gone and done that. We're a big fan of this game, Red Dead Redemption. As you probably heard in the background, I'm always losing my goddamn hat in this game. But yeah, I'm really enjoying playing it. If you guys want to go and check any of that out, it is in the not God of War, in the Red Dead Redemption 2 playlist. So go and check that one out for all the gameplay that I'll be doing. I generally play over the weekends as I get a bit more time to do it there. And this is a very long game and it's very open-ended and very open-winded and all that. But yeah, good game. Very, very good game. Hopefully you're liking the audiobook in the background. That is Black Beauty. We're going to be listening to some more of that in a moment. And I'm going to be drawing, what I'm going to try me draw is the face here, the hand, and the horses down below. Because the word is right. The pen I'm going to be using, my fine line pen here, and also a little bit of shading with either the grays or the others, because I've got the other pens, the other colour pens that I do need to use as well. But yeah, I don't know what colour I'll be putting into this one. Probably only be hinting it like I have been. Won't be colouring it fully in because those pens are crap and knackered. But yeah, we've got 2 pens here. One pen looks actually run out, and the other one's not so bad. Actually, I never knew that. It's got a little thing in the. Look at these pens. It's actually got a "you're running out" bar here. I didn't know. It'll give you another close in. Yeah, I got a little running out bar on these pens, which I've only now noticed. Because as you can see, that one is running out, whereas the other one isn't. Never knew that. Anyway, that's my new pens, rollerballs, uniballs, sorry. And fine lines. So yeah, 7.8. Let's get on and do some drawing.
held her up by the leg, torn and bleeding, and all the gentlemen seemed well pleased. As for me, I was so astonished that I did not at first see what was going on by the brook. But when
And again,
I
we're only
did,
using pen. Ooh, I'm starting to feel like I don't want to go back to pencil, but after
one was
the
struggling in the stream, and the other was groaning on the grass.
what's-my-call,
One of the riders was getting out of the water, covered with mud. The other lay quite still.
after Inktober, we're going to be going to do some more digital work, but it will not be done on the computer. It'll be, well, kind of will be done on the computer. It'll be done in VR. So if you guys want to join
I
in,
thought the same.
keep tuning in, same time every day. Maybe not every day for VR, but definitely we'll still be doing some drawing. I need your suggestions, guys, because we're coming into the last few days. I need your suggestions on what you want me to draw next. Otherwise, I'll probably will do a little sketch on a Monday,
Tear up the fields.
ink it maybe Tuesday,
or a fox,
maybe
or a
colour it
stag,
Wednesday, and then Thursday and Friday I'll try and make that in VR. But we'll see how that goes. We might just have 1 week and then a week after in VR. But yeah, I'm really trying to get some VR artwork done and trying to train myself. And why? Because I've been training myself with pen here. I thought I'd train myself in VR, where you guys can still leave comments, you guys can still join in. It's just I'll be in VR. Anyway, let's get drawing this cover here.
There was no noise now. Even the dogs were quiet and seemed to know that something was wrong. They carried him to our master's house. I heard afterward that it was young George Gordon, the squire's only son, a fine, tall young man, and the pride of his family. There was now riding off in all directions, to the doctor's, to the farrier's, and no doubt to Squire Gordon's, to let him know about his son. When Mr. Bond, the farrier, came to look at the black horse that lay groaning on the grass, he felt him all over and shook his head. One of his legs was broken. Then someone ran to our master's house and came back with a gun. Presently there was a loud bang and a dreadful shriek, and then all was still. The black horse moved no more. My mother seemed much troubled. She said she had known that horse for years, and that his name was Rob Roy. He was a good horse, and there was no vice in him. She would never go to that part of the field afterward. Not many days after, we heard the church bell tolling for a long time, and looking over the gate, we saw a long, strange black coach that was covered with black cloth and was drawn by black horses. After that came another, and another.
It was drawn
and
by
another,
black
and all were
horses.
black, while the bell kept tolling, tolling. They were carrying young Gordon to the churchyard to bury him. He would never ride again. What they did with Rob Roy,
Just
I never knew,
scooching the
but 'twas all for one little hair.
face. I don't know. I'm going to do this face when
End
I've
of
done the hat.
chapter 2.
Idiot. The hat's got a
Chapter
rim,
3,
so
Black Beauty. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain.
this hat a
Black
rim.
Beauty by Anna Sewell.
Maybe it'll make it
Chapter
easier for me
3.
to draw it.
My breaking in.
Probably won't.
I was now beginning to grow handsome. My coat had grown fine and soft, and it was bright black. I had one white foot
Okay,
and a pretty white star on my forehead.
so we've got
I was thought
that. We
very
need some
handsome.
eyes.
My
So
master would not sell me until I was 4 years old.
let's draw
He
his
said
face in, I
lads ought
think,
not to
before I
work
draw his
like
eyes
men,
in.
and
Let's
cocks
give.
ought not to work like horses
put his
till they're
head
quite
here.
grown up. When I
With
was
his
4 years
ear.
old, Squire Gordon
Roughly
came to look
here, I
at me.
think.
He examined my eyes, my mouth, and my legs. He felt them all down, and then I had to walk and trot and gallop
Sort
before
of an
him.
ear.
He seemed to like me.
That's
And so-
hair.
When
let's
he has
make
been
that
well
hair.
broken in, he will do very well. My master said he would break me in himself, as he should not like me to be frightened or hurt, and he lost no time about it, for the next day we began. Everyone may not know what breaking in is, therefore I will describe it. It means to teach a horse to wear a saddle and bridle, and to carry on his back a man, woman, or child, to go just the way they wish, and to go quietly. Besides this, he has to learn to wear a collar, a crupper, and a breeching, and to stand still while they are put on, then to have a cart or chaise fixed behind, so that he cannot walk or trot without dragging it behind him, and he must go fast or slow, just as his driver wishes.
Oh,
He must never start at what
Hey,
he sees,
how are you
nor
doing there in the
speak to other
chat?
horses, nor
You would
bite, nor kick,
Awesome name. I
nor
won't
have
try
any
and
will
pronounce
of
it.
his own, but always do his master's will.
Hey,
even though
well,
he be
thank
very
you for coming from
tired or
over from
hungry.
Instagram with all the abs.
But the worst of all is, once his harness is on, he may
Oh,
neither
it's-
jump for joy
seven-
or lie down
Yeah,
for
it's 7.
weariness.
Hello, 7 from Instagram. How are you
see,
doing there?
This breaking in is a great thing.
I'm just sort of doodling at the
I
moment.
had, of course,
Trying to draw
sold
this
him
cover
to a
here,
halter and a headstall,
as close to
and
it
be led
as
about
I
in
can
the
anyway.
fields and lanes quietly.
I'm using only pen. If I was
Now I
sketching,
just
I'd do a
have a
lot more
bit of
sketchy
pride.
work. But
My master
as it's
gave me some
Inktober,
oats as usual.
we've been keeping
And
on
off
with
with the field
everything
cursing.
we've got to do,
He
which
got
is
the bit
only
into my
ever in
mouth
ink.
and the bridle
Been a
fixed.
challenge, I say, for
Which
28
makes
days. I'll
sense.
tell you that now. 28
Those
days
who
with
have never had a
no
bit in
pencil.
their mouths cannot think how bad it feels. A great piece of cold hard steel, as thick as a man's finger,
We're listening to
pushed
Black
into
Beauty in the
one's mouth.
background.
between one's teeth and over one's tongue, with the ends coming out at the corner of your mouth, and held fast there by straps over your head, under your throat, round your nose, and under your chin, so that no way in the world can you get rid of the nasty hard thing. It is very bad. Yes, very bad. At least I thought so. But I knew my mother always wore one when she went out, and that all horses did when they were grown up. And so, what with the nice oats, and what with my
There's
mother's
going to be quite a bit of shading, I think I'm going to put on this drawing today. But
I
that's
got
not
to
until
wear
we've
my
drawn it.
boots and bridle. Next came the saddle, but that was not half so bad. My master put it on my back very gently, while old Daniel held my head. He then made the girths fast under my body, patting and talking to me all the time. Then I had a few oats, then a little leading about, and this he did every day, till I began to look for the oats and the saddle. At length, one morning, my master got on my back and rode me round the meadow on the soft grass. It certainly did feel queer, but I must say I felt rather proud to carry my master, and, as he continued to ride me a little every day, I soon became accustomed to it. The next unpleasant business was putting on the iron shoes. That too was very hard at first. My master went with me to the smith's forge to see that I was not hurt or got any fright. The blacksmith took my feet in his hand, one after the other, and cut away some of the hoof. It did not pain me, so I stood still on 3 legs till he had done them all. Then he took a piece of iron the shape of my foot and clapped it on, and drove some nails through the shoe quite into my hoof, so that the shoe was firmly on. My feet felt very stiff and heavy, but in time I got used to it. And now, having got so far, my master went on to break me to harness.
Done pretty good.
There were more new things to wear.
Oh, you pretty good. Awesome.
First,
Sorry if I didn't see
stiff,
your
heavy colour just on my neck,
messages straight away. I
and
can see
bridle
them,
with
but
great side pieces
I'm sort of
against my
concentrating
eyes
on what I'm
with
drawing. But
blinkers.
yeah,
With blinkers indeed
glad you're
they
doing
were,
well.
for I could not see on either side, but only straight in front of me. Next, there was a small saddle with a nasty stiff strap that went right under my tail. That was the crupper. I hated the crupper. To have my long tail doubled up and poked through that strap was almost as bad as the bit. I never felt more like kicking, but of course I could not kick such a good master, and so in time I got used to everything, and could do my work as well as my mother. I must not forget to mention one part of my training which I have always considered a very great advantage. My master sent me for a fortnight to a neighbouring farmer's, who had a meadow which was skirted on one side by the railway. Here were some sheep and cows, and I was
There's
turned
beard
in
in now.
among them. I shall never forget the first train that ran by. I was feeding quietly near the pales which separated the meadow from the railway, when I heard a strange sound at a distance, and before I knew whence it
Oh,
came,
gringo.
with a rush and a
No.
clatter and a puffing out of smoke,
All
a long black train of something flew by.
Not
And
my
was gone
Rachi. Not
almost
my
before I could
Rachi.
draw
Not
my
my
breath.
Rachi.
I turned and galloped to the other side of the meadow as fast as I could go, and there I stood, snorting with astonishment and fear. In the course of the day, many other trains went by, some more slowly. These drew up at the station close by, and sometimes made an awful shriek and groan before they stopped. I thought it very dreadful, but the cows went on eating very quietly, and hardly raised their heads as the black frightful thing came puffing and grinding past. For the first few days I could not feed in peace, but as I found that this terrible creature never came into the field, or did me any harm, I began to disregard it, and very soon I cared as little about the passing of a train as the cows and sheep did. Since then I have seen many horses much alarmed and restive at the sight or sound of a steam engine. But thanks to my good master's care, I am as fearless at railway stations as in my
That's
own
wrong.
stable. Now, if anyone wants to break in a young horse well, that is the way. My master often drove me in double harness with my mother, because she was steady and could teach me how to go better than a strange horse. She told me the better I behaved, the better I should be treated, and that it was wisest always to do my best to please my master. But, said she, there are a great many kinds of men. There are good, thoughtful men, like our master, that any horse may be proud to serve, and there are bad, cruel men, who never ought to have a horse or dog to call their own. Besides, there are a great many foolish men, vain, ignorant, and careless, who never trouble themselves to think. These spoil more horses than all, just for want of sense. They don't mean it, but they do it for all that. I hope you will fall into good hands, but a horse never knows who may buy him, or who may drive him. It is all a chance for us. But still I say, do your best, wherever it is, and keep up your good name. End of chapter 3.
End of chapter 3.
Chapter 4 of
Oh,
Black
chapter
Beauty.
4.
This LibriVox recording is in the
LibriVox.
public domain.
Liverbox, guys, if you're a fan of it,
Like
I have
by
linked
Anna
some of the
Sewell.
Liverbox recordings already that
24.
I've listened to in the
Bertram.
comment sections down below. Not in today's.
At this
I will
time,
do those
I used to stand
in the
in the
next couple of days,
stable
if
and
not
my
at the
coat
end of the
was brushed
competition,
every
just
until it shone
so
like
you
a
guys can
rock's
listen
wing.
to and listen back to what I
It
have
was
been
early
listening
in
to.
May, when there came a man from Squire Gordon's, who took me away to the halls.
Right,
My master said,
we've got the head. We've got the head where the head
Be a
should
good
be.
horse, and
I've
I
now
will
got to
see
put
you
in the sort of area
I
where the
could not
horse is
say
going to be.
goodbye.
So
So I put my
let's get a
nose
fatter
to his
pen
hand,
and really mark that out to make sure that that is
and I left
where
my
we're going to be
first
doing
day.
it. So
As I lived some years with Squire Gordon,
any
I may
other
as well
pens?
tell something about the place. Squire Gordon's park skirted the village of Bertram. It was entered by a large
Using my
iron
scrappy
gate,
scrippy ones.
at which stood the
Scribblers, I
first
think they're
lodge.
called. They're not very good.
And then he trotted along on a smooth road between clumps of
But they are
large
Copic
old
marker pen ink,
Then
just
another
like the
lodge
poor man's
and
version of it.
another gate, which brought you to the house and the gardens. Beyond this lay the home paddock, the old orchard, and the stables. There was accommodation for many horses and carriages, but I need only describe the stable into which I was taken. This was very roomy, with 4 good stalls. A large swinging window opened into the yard, which made it pleasant and airy. The first stall was a large square one, shut in behind with a wooden gate. The others were common
Okay, that'll
stalls,
do for that.
good stalls, but not nearly so large. It had a low rack for hay and a low manger for
Because this
corn.
is
It
because
was
these
called a loose
horses
box, because the horse that was put into it was
because
not tied up, but left loose to do as he liked. It is a great
because these
thing to
horses
have a
are
loose box.
actually
Into
in the
this fine
forefront.
box the groom
I'm
put
going to put these. I'm going to draw these in first, and then I'll draw the rest of the hand gun and things, so I know what kind of shape and what space I've got left
and
over.
the sides were not so high, but that I could see all that went on through the iron rails that were at the top. He gave me some very nice oats. He patted me
Coming out so well. Thank you very much for your
and
support
then
there,
went
buddy.
away.
Thank you very much.
When I had eaten my corn, I looked around. In the stall next to mine stood a little fat grey pony with a thick mane and tail
Okay, I'm going to start with legs first.
and a pert
So
little
that's-
nose.
I'm
I
going
put my
to
head
literally
up to
put
the iron
these
rails
in
and
as a
checked my
shadow.
box
I'm
and
not
said,
gonna,
"How do you do? What is your
I'm
name?"
not gonna try and put loads of detail
He turned round as far as his halter would allow,
because they're only
held up
small.
his head, and said, "My name is Merrylegs. I am very handsome. I carry the young ladies on my back, and sometimes I take our mistress out in the low chair. They think a great deal of me, and so does James. Are you going to live next door to me in the box?" I said, "Yes." "Well then," he said, "I hope you are good-tempered. I do not like anyone next door who bites." Just then a horse's head looked over from the stall beyond. The ears were laid back, and the eye looked rather ill-tempered. This was a tall chestnut mare, with a long, handsome neck. She looked across to me and said, "So it is you who have turned me out of my box. It is a very strange thing for a colt like you to come and turn a lady out of her own home." "I beg your pardon," I said. "I have turned no one out. The man who brought me put me here, and I have nothing to do with it. And as to my being a colt, I am turned 4 years old, and am a grown-up horse. I never had words yet with horse or mare, and it is my wish to live at peace." "Well," she said, "we shall see. Of course I do not want to have words with a young thing like you." I said no more. In the afternoon, when she went out, Merrylegs told me all about it. "The thing is this," said Merrylegs. "Ginger has a bad habit of biting and snapping. That is why they call her Ginger. And when she was in the loose box, she used to snap very much. One day she bit James in the arm and made it bleed, and so Miss Flora and Miss Jessie, who were very fond of me, were afraid to come into the stable. They used to bring me nice things to eat, an apple or a carrot or a piece of bread, but after Ginger stood in that box they dared not come, and I missed them very much. I hope they will now come again, if you do not bite or snap." I told him I never bit anything but grass, hay, and corn, and could not think what pleasure Ginger found it. "Well, I don't think she does find pleasure," says Merrylegs. "It is just a bad habit. She says no one was ever kind to her, and why should she not bite? Of course, It is a very bad habit, but I'm sure if all she says be true, she must have been very ill-used before she came here. John does all he can to please her, and James does all he can, and our master never uses a whip if a horse acts right, so I think she might be good-tempered here. You see, he said, with a wise look, I am 12 years old. I know a great deal, and I can tell you there is not a better place for a horse all round the country than this. John is the best groom that ever was. He has been here 14 years, and you never saw such a kind boy as James is. So that it is all Ginger's own fault that she did not stay in that box. End of chapter 4. Chapter 5 of Black Beauty. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Black Beauty by Anna Sewell. Chapter 5. A Fair Start. The name of the coachman was John Manley. He had a wife and one little child, and they lived in the coachman's cottage, very near the stable. The next morning he took me into the yard and gave me a good grooming, and just as I was going into my box with my coat soft and bright, the squire came in to look at me and seemed pleased. "John," he said, "I meant to have tried the new horse this morning, but I have other business. You may as well take him around after breakfast. Go by the common and the highwood, and back by the watermill and the river. That will show his paces." "I will, sir," said John. After breakfast he came and fitted me with a bridle. He was very particular in letting out and taking in the straps to fit my head comfortably. Then he bought a saddle, but it was not broad enough for my back. He saw it in a minute and went for another, which fitted nicely. He rode me first slowly, then a trot, then a canter, and when we were on the common, he gave me a light touch with his whip, and we had a splendid gallop. "Ho, ho, my boy," he said, as he pulled me up. "You would like to follow the hounds, I think." As we came back through the park, we met the squire and Mrs. Gordon walking. They stopped, and John jumped off. "Well, John, how does he go?" "First rate, sir," answered John. "He is as fleet as a deer, and has a fine spirit too, but the lightest touch of the rein will guide him. Down at the end of the common we met one of those travelling carts, hung all over with baskets, rugs, and such like. You know, sir, many horses will not pass those carts quietly. He just took a good look at it, and then went on as quiet and pleasant as could be. They were shooting rabbits near the highwood, and a gun went off close by. He pulled up a little and looked, but did not stir a step to right or left. I just held the rein steady and did not hurry him, and it's my opinion he has not been frightened or ill-used while he was young." "That's well," said the squire. "I will try him myself tomorrow." The next day I was brought up for my master. I remembered my mother's counsel and my good old master's, and I tried to do exactly what he wanted me to do. I found he was a very good rider, and thoughtful for his horse too. When he came home, the lady was at the hall door as he rode up. "Well, my dear," she said, "how do you like him?" "He is exactly what John said," he replied. "A pleasanter creature I never wish to mount. What shall we call him?" "Would you like Ebony?" said she. "He is as black
Ebony
as
and ivory.
No, not Ebony." "Will you call him Blackbird, like your uncle's old horse?" "No, he is far handsomer than old Blackbird ever was." "Yes," she said, "he really is quite a beauty, and he has such a sweet, good-tempered face, and such a fine, intelligent eye. What do you say to calling him Black Beauty?" "Black Beauty? Why, yes, I think that is a very good name. If you like, it shall be his name." And so it was. When John went into the stable, he told James that master and mistress had chosen a good, sensible English name for me that meant something, not like Marengo or Pegasus or Abdallah. They both laughed,
Whoa,
and
that's a bit.
James said, if it was not for bringing back the past, I should have named him Rob Roy, for I never saw two horses more alike. That's no
Okay,
wonder.
no worries, buddy. Thank you very much for joining me.
Didn't you know Tom
Hopefully you will
Rose
come
and
back.
Duchess was the
Don't
mother
forget to
of
hit
love?
subscribe if you haven't already.
I had never heard that before. And so poor
I'll be back
Rob
again
Roy
tomorrow,
must
so if
hear
you do
about
miss this
Hunt
one, you can always
and
watch
Clever.
back. And
I didn't
yeah, I'll be
wonder
back
that my mother was so
for the
clever.
next few days of
It seems that
October. I'm
horses
still
have
going here
regulations.
because this one's going to take me quite a bit of
They
time, I
never know
think.
each other after they are sold.
But thank you very much for your support there.
John seemed very proud of me. He used to make my mane and tail almost as smooth as a lady's hair, and he would talk to me a great deal. Of course, I did not understand all he said, but I learned more and more to know what he meant and what he wanted me to do. I grew very fond of him. He was so gentle and kind. He seemed to know just how a horse feels, and when he cleaned me, he knew the tender places and the ticklish places. When he brushed my head, he went as carefully over my eyes as if they were his own, and never stirred up any ill temper. James Howard, the stable boy, was just as gentle and pleasant in his way, so I thought myself well off. There was another man who helped in the yard, but he had very little to do with Ginger and me. A few days after this, I had to go out with Ginger in the carriage. I wondered how we should get on together, but except laying her ears back when I was led up to her, she behaved very well. She did her work honestly and did her full share, and I never wished to have a better partner in double harness. When we came to a hill, instead of slackening her pace, she would throw her weight right into the collar and pull away straight up. We had both the same sort of courage at our work, and John had oftener to hold us in than to urge us forward. He never had to use the whip with either of us. Then our paces were much the same, and I found it very easy to keep step with her when trotting, which made it pleasant, and Master always liked it when we kept step well, and so did John. After we had been out 2 or 3 times together, we grew quite friendly and sociable, which made me feel very much at home. As for Merrylegs, he and I soon became great friends. He was such a cheerful, plucky, good-tempered little fellow, and especially with Miss Jessie and Flora, who used to ride him about in the orchard and have fine games with him and their little dog Frisky.
I think I'll do, actually. I don't think I was going to need any more wild horses
One with Justice,
or
a
black
roan
little
cob,
bees.
used for riding or for the luggage cart. The other was an old brown hunter named Sir Oliver. He was past work now, but was a great favourite with the master, who gave him the run of the park. He sometimes did a little light carting on the estate, or carried one of the young ladies when they rode out with their father, for he was very gentle, and could be trusted with a child as well as Merrylegs. The cob was a strong, well-made, good-tempered horse, and we sometimes had a little chat in the paddock, but of course I could not be so intimate with him as with Ginger, who stood in the same stable. End of chapter 5.
Okay, now I've got to put
Chapter 6 of Black
the rest
Beauty.
of the drawing
This
here.
LibriVox recording is
So
in
I've
the
got
public
the
domain.
shoulders, hand, and
Black
gun,
Beauty
which is,
by Anna
yeah, as
Sewell.
you know, I don't really like drawing guns,
Chapter
but I think I'll make the exception
Liberty.
today.
I was quite happy in my new place, and if there was one thing I missed, it must not be thought I was discontented. All who had to do with me were good, and I had a light, airy stable, and the best of food. What more could I want? Why, liberty. For 3 years and a half of my life, I had had all the liberty I could wish for. Now, week after week, month after month, and no doubt year after year, I must stand up in a stable night and day, except when I am wanted, and then I must be just as steady and quiet as any old horse who has worked 20 years. Straps here and straps there, a bit in my mouth and blinkers over my eyes. Now, I'm not complaining, for I know it must be so. I only mean to say that for a young horse, full of strength and spirits, who has been used to some large field or plain, where he can fling up his head and toss up his tail and gallop away at full speed, and then round and back again with a snort to his companions, I say it is hard never to have a bit more liberty to do as you like. Sometimes, when I have had less exercise than usual, I have felt so full of life and spring that when John has taken me out to exercise, I really could not keep quiet. Do what I would, it seemed as if I must jump or dance or prance, and many a good shake I know I must have given him, especially at the first, but he was always good and patient. "Steady, steady, my boy," he would say. "Wait a bit, and we will have a good swing and soon get the tickle out of your feet." Then, as soon as we were out of the village, he would give me a few miles at a spanking trot, and then bring me back as fresh as before, only clear of the fidgets, as he called them. Spirited horses, when not enough exercised, are often called skittish when it is only play, and some grooms will punish them. But our John did not. He knew it was only high spirits. Still, he had his own ways of making me understand by the tone of his voice or the touch of the rein. If he was very serious and quite determined, I always knew it by his voice, and that had more power with me than anything else, for I was very fond of him. I ought to say that sometimes we had our liberty for a few hours. This used to be on fine Sundays in the summer-time. The carriage never went out on Sundays, because the church was not far off. It was a great treat to us to be turned out into the home paddock or the old orchard. The grass was so cool and soft to our feet, the air so sweet, and the freedom to do as we liked was so pleasant. To gallop, to lie down and roll over on our backs, or to nibble the sweet grass. Then it was a very good time for talking, as we stood together under the shade of the large chestnut tree. End of chapter 6. Chapter 7 of Black Beauty. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Black Beauty by Anna Sewell. Chapter 7. Ginger. One day, when Ginger and I were standing alone in the shade, we had a great deal of talk. She wanted to know all about my bringing up and breaking in, and I told her. Well, said she, if I had had your bringing up, I might have had as good a temper as you, but now I don't believe I ever shall. Why not? I said. Because it has all been so different with me, she replied. I never had anyone, horse or man, that was kind to me, or that I cared to please. For in the first place, I was taken from my mother as soon as I was weaned, and put in with a lot of other young colts. None of them cared for me, and I cared for none of them. There was no kind master like yours to look after me, and talk to me, and bring me nice things to eat. The man that had the care of us never gave me a kind word in my life. I do not mean that he ill-used me, but he did not care for us one bit further than to see that we had plenty to eat and shelter in the winter. A footpath ran through our field, and very often the great boys passing through would fling stones to make us gallop. I was never hit, but one fine young colt was badly cut in the face, and I should think it would be a scar for life. We did not care for them, but of course it made us more wild, and we settled it in our minds that boys were our enemies. We had very good fun in the free meadows, galloping up and down and chasing each other, round and round the field, then standing still under the shade of the trees. But when it came to breaking in, that was a bad time for me. Several men came to catch me, and when at last they closed me in at one corner of the field, one caught me by the forelock, another caught me by the nose, and held it so tight I could hardly draw my breath. Then another took my underjaw in his hard hand and wrenched my mouth open, and so by force they got on the halter and the bar into my mouth. Then one dragged me along by the halter, another flogging behind, and this was the first experience I had of men's kindness. It was all force. They did not give me a chance to know what they wanted. I was high-bred and had a great deal of spirit, and was very wild, no doubt, and gave them, I dare say, plenty of trouble. But then it was dreadful to be shut up in a stall day after day, instead of having my liberty, and I fretted and pined and wanted to get loose. You know yourself it's bad enough when you have a kind master and plenty of coaxing, but there was nothing of that sort for me. There was one, the old master, Mr. Ryder, who I think could soon have brought me round, and could have done anything with me. But he had given up all the hard part of the trade to his son and to another experienced man, and he only came at times to oversee. His son was a strong, tall, bold man. They called him Samson, and he used to boast that he had never found a horse that could throw him. There was no gentleness in him, as there was in his father, but only hardness, a hard voice, a hard eye, a hard hand, and I felt from the first that what he wanted was to wear all the spirit out of me, and just make me into a quiet, humble, obedient piece of horseflesh. Horseflesh. Yes, that is all he thought about. And Ginger stamped her foot, as if the very thought of him made her angry. Then she went on. If I did not do exactly what he wanted, he would get put out. and make me run round with that long rein in the training field till he had tired me out. I think he drank a good deal, and I am quite sure that the oftener he drank, the worse it was for me. One day he had worked me hard in every way he could, and when I lay down I was tired and miserable and angry. It all seemed so hard. The next morning he came for me early, and ran me round again for a long time. I had scarcely an hour's rest, when he came again for me with a saddle and bridle, and a new kind of bit. I could never quite tell how it came about. He had only just mounted me on the training ground, when something I did put him out of temper, and he chucked me hard with the rein. The new bit was very painful, and I reared up suddenly, which angered him still more, and he began to flog me. I felt my whole spirit set against him,
I'm
and I
already
began
hating
to
this
kick
gun.
and plunge and rear as I had never done before, and we had a regular fight. For a long time he stuck to the saddle, and punished me cruelly with his whip and spurs, but my blood was thoroughly up, and I cared for nothing he could do, if only I could get him off. At last, after a terrible struggle, I threw him off backward. I heard him fall heavily on the turf, and without looking behind me, I galloped off to the other end of the field. There I turned round, and saw my persecutor slowly rising from the ground, and going into the stable. I stood under an oak tree and watched, but no one came to catch me. The time went on, and the sun was very hot. The flies swarmed around me, and settled on my bleeding flanks where the spurs had dug in. I felt hungry, for I had not eaten since the early morning, but there was not enough grass in that meadow for a goose to live on. I wanted to lie down and rest, but with the saddle strapped tightly on there was no comfort, and there was not a drop of water to drink. The afternoon wore on, and the sun got low. I saw the other colts led in, and I knew they were having a good feed.
Oh, that's good, and as good as
At
his
last.
guns I'm going to draw.
Just as the sun went down, I saw the old master come out with a sieve in his hand. He was a very fine old gentleman, with quite white hair, but his voice was what I should know him by among 1,000. It was not high, nor yet low, but full and clear and kind, and when he gave orders, it was so steady and decided that everyone knew, both horses and men, that he expected to be obeyed. He came quietly along, now and then shaking the oats about that he had in the sieve, and speaking cheerfully and gently to me. "Come along, lassie, come along, lassie, come along, come along." I stood still, and let him come up. He held the oats to me, and I began to eat without fear. His voice took all my fear away. He stood by, patting and stroking me while I was eating, and seeing the clots of blood on my side, he seemed very vexed. Poor lassie, it was a bad business, a bad business. Then he quietly took the rein and led me to the stable. Just at the door stood Samson. I laid my ears back and snapped at him. "Stand back," said the master, "and keep out of her way. You've done a bad day's work for this filly." He growled out something about a vicious brute. "Hark ye," said the father, "a bad-tempered man will never make a good-tempered horse. You've not learned your trade yet, Samson." Then he led me into my box, took off the saddle and bridle with his own hands, and tied me up. Then he called for a pail of warm water and a sponge, took off his coat, and while the stable-man held the pail, he sponged my sides a good while, so tenderly that I was sure he knew how bruised and sore they were. "Whoa, my pretty one," he said, "stand still, stand still." His very voice did me good, and the bathing was very comfortable. The skin was so broken at the corners of my mouth that I could not eat the hay, the stalks hurt me. He looked closely at it, shook his head, and told the man to fetch a good bran mash and put some meal into it. How good that mash was, and so soft and healing to my mouth. He stood by all the time I was eating, stroking me and talking to the man. "If a high-mettled creature like this," said he, "can't be broken by fair means, she will never be good for anything." After that he often came to see me, and when my mouth was healed, the other breaker, Job they called him, went on training me. He was steady and thoughtful, and I soon learned what he wanted. End of chapter 7.
Okay, those hands are really weird. I
Chapter
mean,
8 of Black Beauty.
look
This
at those
Little
hands
Box
there.
recording is in the
There's no
public
actual
domain.
fingers, and you can't really
Black
tell where all the
Beauty
knuckles
by
are.
Alice Orr.
So that's
Chapter
kind of what I
8.
drew. I
Ginger's
mean,
story
I would, to me
continued.
personally, that would be a fingernail,
The next time that Ginger and I
and
were
the knuckle
together
would
at
be
the
here,
pub,
and the hand. Okay,
she
the
told
hand
me
is
about
here.
her first place. After my breaking in, she said, I was bought by a dealer to match another chestnut horse. For some weeks he drove us together, and then we were sold to a fashionable gentleman and were sent up to London. I had been driven with a check rein by the dealer, and I hated it worse than anything else. But in this place, we were reined far tighter, the coachman and his master thinking we looked more stylish so. We were often driven about in the park and other fashionable places. You, who have never had a check rein on, don't know what it is, but I can tell you it is dreadful. I like to toss my head about and hold it as high as any horse. But fancy now yourself, if you tossed your head up high and were obliged to hold it there, and that for hours together, not able to move it at all, except with a jerk still higher, your neck aching till you did not know how to bear it. Besides that, to have two bits instead of one, and mine was a sharp one, it hurt my tongue and my jaw, and the blood from my tongue coloured the froth that kept flying from my lips as I chafed and fretted at the bits and rein. It was worst when we had to stand by the hour, waiting for our mistress at some grand party or entertainment, and if I fretted or stamped with impatience, the whip was laid on. It was enough to drive one mad. Did not your master take any thought for you? I said. No, said she. He only cared to have a stylish turnout, as they call it. I think he knew very little about horses. He left that to his coachman, who told him I had an irritable temper, that I had not been well broken to the check rein, but I should soon get used to it. But he was not the man to do it. For when I was in the stable, miserable and angry, instead of being smoothed and quieted by kindness, I got only a surly word or a blow. If he had been civil, I would have tried to bear it. I was willing to work and ready to work hard too, but to be tormented for nothing but their fancies angered me. What right had they to make me suffer like that? Besides, the soreness in my mouth and the pain in my neck had always made my windpipe feel bad, and if I had stopped there long, I know it would have spoiled my breathing. But I grew more and more restless and irritable. I could not help it, and I began to snap and kick when anyone came to harness me. For this the groom beat me, and one day, as they had just buckled us into the carriage, and were straining my head up with that rein, I began to plunge and kick with all my might. I soon broke a lot of harness, and kicked myself clear, so that was an end of that place. After this, I was sent to Tattersall's to be sold. Of course I could not be warranted free from vice, so nothing was said about that. My handsome appearance and good paces soon brought a gentleman to bid for me, and I was bought by another dealer. He tried me in all kinds of ways and with different bits, and he soon found out what I could not bear. At last he drove me quite without a check rein, and then sold me as a perfectly quiet horse to a gentleman in the country. He was a good master, and I was getting on very well, but his old groom left him, and a new one came. This man was as hard-tempered and hard-handed as Samson. He always spoke in a rough, impatient voice, and if I did not move in the stall the moment he wanted me, he would hit me above the hocks with his stable broom or the fork, whichever he might have in his hand. Everything he did was rough, and I began to hate him. He wanted to make me afraid of him, but I was too high-mettled for that. And one day, when he had aggravated me more than usual, I bit him, which of course put him in a great rage, and he began to hit me about the head with a riding whip. After that, he never dared to come into my stall again. Either my heels or my teeth were ready for him, and he knew it. I was quite quiet with my master, but of course he listened to what the man said, and so I was sold again. The same dealer heard of me, and said he thought he knew one place where I should do well. It was a pity, he said, that such a fine horse should go to the bad, for want of a real good chance. And the end of it was that I came here not long before you did. But I had then made up my mind that men were my natural enemies, and that I must defend myself. Of course, it is very different here, but who knows how long it will last? I wish I could think about things as you do, but I can't, after all I have gone through. Well, I said, I think it would be a real shame if you were to bite or kick John or James. I don't mean to, she said, while they are good to me. I did bite James once pretty sharp, but John said, try her with kindness, and instead of punishing me as I expected, James came to me with his arm bound up and brought me a bran mash and stroked me, and I have never snapped at him since, and I won't either. I was sorry for Ginger, but of course I knew very little then, and I thought most likely she made the worst of it. However, I found that as the weeks went on she grew more gentle and cheerful, and had lost the watchful, defiant look that she used to turn on any strange person who came near her. And one day James said, I do believe that mare is getting quite fond of me. She quite whinnied after me this morning when I had been rubbing her forehead. Aye, aye, Jim, 'tis the Birtwick balls, said John. She'll be as good as Black Beauty by and by. Kindness is all the physic she wants, poor thing. Master noticed the change too, and one day when he got out of the carriage and came to speak to us, as he often did, he stroked her beautiful neck. Well, my pretty one, well, how do things go with you now? You are a good bit happier than when you came to us, I think. She put her nose up to him in a friendly, trustful way, while he rubbed it gently. We shall make a cure of her, John, he said. Yes, sir, she's wonderfully improved. She's not the same creature that she was. It's the Birtwick balls, sir, said John, laughing. This was a little joke of John's. He used to say that a regular course of the Birtwick horse balls would cure almost any vicious horse. These balls, he said, were made up of patience and gentleness, firmness and petting, 1 pound of each to be mixed up with half a pint of common sense and given to the horse every day. End of chapter 8. Chapter 9 of Black Beauty. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Black Beauty by Anna Sewell. Chapter 9. Merrylegs. Mr. Bloomfield, the vicar, had a large family of boys and girls. Sometimes they used to come and play with Miss Jessie and Flora. One of the girls was as old as Miss Jessie. 2 of the boys were older, and there were several little ones. When they came there was plenty of work for Merrylegs, for nothing pleased them so much as getting on him by turns, and riding him all about the orchard and the home paddock, and this they would do by the hour together. One afternoon he had been out with them a long time, and when James brought him in and put on his halter, he said, There, you rogue, mind how you behave yourself, or we shall get into trouble. What have you been doing, Merrylegs? I asked. Oh, said he, tossing his little head, I have only been giving those young people a lesson. They did not know when they had had enough, nor when I had had enough, so I just pitched them off backward. That was the only thing they could understand. What? Said I. You threw the children off? I thought you knew better than that. Did you throw Miss Jessie or Miss Flora? He looked very much offended and said, Of course not. I would not do such a thing for the best oats that ever came into the stable. Why, I am as careful of our young ladies as the master could be, and as for the little ones, it is I who teach them to ride. When they seem frightened or a little unsteady on my back, I go as smooth and as quiet as old Pussy when she is after a bird, and when they are all right, I go on again faster, you see, just to use them to it. So don't you trouble yourself preaching to me. I am the best friend and the best riding master those children have. It is not them, it is the boys. Boys, said he, shaking his mane, are quite different. They must be broken in as we were broken in when we were colts, and just be taught what's what. The other children had ridden me about for nearly 2 hours, and then the boys thought that it was their turn, and so it was, and I was quite agreeable. They rode me by turns, and I galloped them about, up and down the fields and all about the orchard, for a good hour. They had each cut a great hazel stick for a riding whip, and laid it on a little too hard, but I took it in good part, till at last I thought we had had enough, so I stopped 2 or 3 times by way of a hint. Boys, you see, think a horse or a pony is like a steam engine or a thrashing machine, and can go on as long and as fast as they please. They never think that a pony can get tired or have any feelings. So, as the one who was whipping me could not understand, I just rose up on my hind legs and let him slip off behind. That was all. He mounted me again, and I did the same. Then the other boy got on, and as soon as he began to use his stick, I laid him on the grass, and so on. till they were able to understand. That was all. They are not bad boys. They don't wish to be cruel. I like them very well, but you see, I had to give
Sacked
them a
him
lesson.
off!
When they
Get
brought
whipping me,
James
so I
and
sacked
told
him off!
I think he was very angry to see such big sticks. He said they were only fit for drovers or gypsies, and not for young gentlemen. Had I been you, said Ginger, I would have given those boys a good kick, and that would have given them a lesson. No doubt you would, said Merrylegs, but then I am not quite such a fool, begging your pardon, as to anger our master or make James ashamed of me. Besides, those children are under my charge when they are riding. I tell you they are entrusted to me. Why, only the other day I heard our master say to Mrs. Bloomfield, My dear madam, you need not be anxious about the children. My old Merrylegs will take as much care of them as you or I could. I assure you I would not sell that pony for any money. He is so perfectly good-tempered and trustworthy. And do you think I am such an ungrateful brute as to forget all the kind treatment I've had here for 5 years, and all the trust that they place in me, and turn vicious because a couple of ignorant boys used me badly? No, no. You never had a good place where they were kind to you, and so you don't know, and I'm sorry for you. But I can tell you good places make good horses. I wouldn't vex our people for anything. I love them, I do, said Merrylegs, and he gave a low ho-ho-ho through his nose, as he used to do in the morning when he heard James's footstep at the door. Besides, he went on, if I took the
Horses
chicken,
are
where
living
should I
me. They
be?
talk to me. It's funny.
Why, sold off in a jiffy.
You
and
watch
no
see me go
carrot.
past because they see
And
me
I
going
might
past
find
every
myself
day.
slaved about
You
under
assume
a
that I'm their
butcher's boy,
master, well,
or
a
worked
feeder
together
or
at some
something.
seaside place,
And
where no one
yeah, they
cared
always
for
come
me,
up to the
except to find out how fast I could go.
hedge and
flopped
sort
along
of
in
peek
some
their head over,
cart,
like, "Oh, you
with
feed
3
me
or 4
today?"
great men in it going out for Sunday
And then
spree.
my
As I
dog
have
here,
often
and as you
seen
heard her in
the
the
place I
background,
lived in before I
she
came
tells them,
here.
"Wait, no, he's my
I
boy.
know,
He's my man. Leave him alone."
shaking his head. I hope I shall never
Every
come
day.
to that. End of chapter 9.
Talk about squeaking.
Chapter 10 of Black Beauty. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Black Beauty by Anna Sewell. Chapter 10. A Talk in the Orchard. Ginger and I were not of the regular tall carriage horse breed. We had more of the racing blood in us. We stood about 15½ hands high. We were therefore just as good for riding as we were for driving, and our master used to say that he disliked either horse or man that could do but one thing, and as he did not want to show off in London parks, he preferred a more active and useful kind of horse. As for us, our greatest pleasure was when we were saddled for a riding party, the master on Ginger, the mistress on me, and the young ladies on Sir Oliver and Merrylegs. It was so cheerful to be trotting and cantering all together that it always put us in high spirits. I had the best of it, for I always carried the mistress. Her weight was little, her voice was sweet, and her hand was so light on the rein that I was guided almost without feeling it. Oh, if people knew what a comfort to horses a light hand is, and how it keeps a good mouth and a good temper, they surely would not chuck and drag and pull at the rein as they often do. Our mouths are so tender that where they have not been spoiled or hardened with bad or ignorant treatment, they feel the slightest movement of the driver's hand, and we know in an instant what is required of us. My mouth has never been spoiled, and I believe that was why the mistress preferred me to Ginger, although her paces were certainly quite as good. She used often to envy me, and said it was all the fault of breaking in, and the gag bit in London, that her mouth was not so perfect as mine. And then old Sir Oliver would say, There, don't vex yourself. You have the greatest honour. A mare that can carry a tall man of our master's weight, with all your spring and sprightly action, does not need to hold her head down because she does not carry the lady. We horses must take things as they come, and always be contented and willing so long as we are kindly used. I had often wondered how it was that Sir Oliver had such a very short tail. It was really only 6 or 7 inches long, with tassel
Sorry,
of
guys,
hair
you didn't see
hanging
me
from
do
it.
that.
And on one of our holidays in the orchard,
Using my
I
2
ventured
pence,
to ask
got my
him
felt
by
tip,
what
which is
accident
running
it
out,
was
and
that
my
he
other
lost his
Copic
tail.
marker, which is sort of running out, but it
Accident,
sort of it takes
he snorted.
takes
Of
moments.
course
If I hold it upside
It
down,
was
it gets
no
a bit more ink
accident.
in there, but they
It
are
was a cruel,
both starting to really
shameful,
run out.
cold-blooded
I've got to get some more.
When I was young,
But they are really
I was
good for
taken to a
shading,
place
so
where
that's
these
why I keep
cruel
hold of them.
things were done. I was tied up and made fast so that I could not stir, and then they came and cut off my long and beautiful tail, through the flesh and through the bone, and took it away. How dreadful! I exclaimed. Dreadful? Ah, it was dreadful, but it was not only the pain, though that was terrible and lasted a long time. It was not only the indignity of having my best ornament taken from me, though that was bad, but it was this. How could I ever brush the flies off my sides and my hind legs any more? You who have tails just whisk the flies off without thinking about it, and you can't tell what a torment it is to have them settle upon you and sting, and have nothing in the world to lash them off with. I tell you, it is a lifelong wrong and a lifelong loss. Thank heaven they don't do it now. What do they do it for then? Said Ginger. For fashion, said the old horse, with a stamp of his foot. For fashion. If you know what that means, there was not a well-bred young horse in my time that had not his tail docked in that shameful way, just as if the good God that made us did not know what we wanted and what looked best. I suppose it is fashion that makes them strap our heads up with those horrid bits that I was tortured with in London, said Ginger. Of course it is, said he. To my mind, fashion is one of the wickedest things in the world. Now look, for instance,
Totally
at
is.
the way they serve dogs, cutting off their tails to make them look plucky, and shearing up their pretty little ears to a point to make them both look sharp, forsooth.
What?
I had a dear friend
Didn't know they
once,
did that.
a brown terrier, Skye they called her. She was so fond of me that she would never sleep out of my stall. She made her bed under the manger, and there she had a litter of 5 as pretty little puppies as need be. None were drowned, for they were a valuable kind, and how pleased she was with them. And when they got their eyes open and crawled about, it was a real pretty sight. But one day the man came and took them all away. I thought he might be afraid I should tread upon them. But it was not so. In the evening poor Skye brought them back again, one by one, in her mouth, not the happy little things that they were, but bleeding and crying pitifully. They had all had a piece of their tails cut off, and the soft flap of their pretty little ears was cut quite off. How their mother licked
Sorry,
them,
it's just
and
depressing
how
me a little
troubled
bit.
she was, poor thing. I never forgot it. They healed
Can't
in
understand
time,
why people do
and
that
they
to
forgot
dogs.
the pain.
I can understand when
With
a
a
dog's
nice
tail's a
soft
bit
flap,
wanky,
that of course
stranky,
was
and it's got to be
intended
taken
protect
off.
the delicate part of
You
their
know,
ears
because some
from
dogs
dust
go,
and
their tails
injury.
get septic when they
It's gone
come out of the
forever.
womb, and it
Why
kills
don't
them.
they
But
cut their own
taking them off
children's
just for
ears
fun,
into points
it's
to make them look sharp? Why don't they cut the end off their noses to make them look plucky?
in it.
One
I'd
would
like
be
to cut
just
someone's
as
nose off
sensible
and
as
cut
the
dogs'
other.
tails off.
What right
Cuts
have they
their
to
ears.
torment and disfigure
It's
God's
not needed.
creatures?
It's just for show. I mean,
Sir
why would
Oliver,
anybody
though he was
give
so
a shit
gentle,
that much?
was a fiery old fellow,
No, I don't.
and
No,
what
my
he
dog
said was
doesn't
also
represent the
near
way
to
I
me,
wish.
and
Then
so
I'm going to cut
dreadful
it up.
that I found a bitter
Okay,
feeling
well,
towards men right
I'm going
up
to
in
take
my
you down
mind
to the
that I
down to
had
the
never
shield
had before.
and cut your
Of
fingers
course,
and your
Ginger
toes
was
off because
very
I don't
much
like the way they
excited.
wiggle.
She flung up her head with flashing eyes and distended nostrils, declaring that men were both brutes and blockheads. Who talks about blockheads? Said Merrylegs, who had just come up from the old apple tree, where he had been rubbing himself against the low branch. Who talks about blockheads? I believe that is a bad word. Bad words were made for bad things, said Ginger, and she told him what Sir Oliver had said. It is all true, said Merrylegs sadly, and I have seen that about the dogs over and over again where I lived first, but we won't talk about it here. You know that Master and John and James are always good to us, and talking against men in such a place as this doesn't seem fair or grateful. And you know there are good masters and good grooms beside ours, though of course ours are the best. This wise speech of good little Merrylegs, which we knew was quite true, cooled us all down, especially Sir Oliver, who was dearly fond of his master. And to turn the subject, I said, "Can anyone tell me the use of blinkers?" "No," said Sir Oliver shortly, "because they are no use." "They are supposed," said Justice, the roan cob, in his calm way, "to prevent horses from shying and starting, and getting so frightened as to cause accidents." "Then what is the reason they do not put them on riding horses, especially on ladies' horses?" said I. There is no reason at all, said he quietly, except the fashion. They say that a horse would be so frightened to see the wheels of his own cart or carriage coming behind him that he would be sure to run away, although of course when he is ridden he sees them all about him if the streets are crowded. I admit they do sometimes come too close to be pleasant, but we don't run away. We are used to it and understand it, and if we never had blinkers put on, we should never want them. We should see what was there and know what was what, and be much less frightened than...
Much less frightened indeed to draw this picture, because we're done. We're finished. We put all the shading in that I'm going to be bothered to be putting in for an hour's worth of drawing. And we've got here done. Hopefully you've enjoyed that story in the background. But this is the end of today's live stream. This is... Actually, I really enjoyed doing this. I didn't think I was going to do the gun very well. I put the shading in there. It looks like a gun, and it looks like a hand holding the gun. And that, again, is what I have been using to draw today. And I will be playing some more of this next weekend for Red Dead Weekends or Western Weekends. If you want to go and check that playlist out, there'll be a couple more episodes in there soon. If not, check them out on the channel. But if you want to see some more artwork by me, there are loads in the Creation Station. Or if you want to see all the Inktober entries this year, go into that playlist as prompted. Otherwise, click the links that will appear if you're watching back. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now. Give you a quick zoom in before I do so. Everybody's watching live. So yeah, put a little bit of shading in on the eyes. Only use like a shading. I'm using the shading to my effect. And again, I'm only drawing the little bits of gun there. As I said, I didn't do very well on the gun, but it looks like a gun. As close to that one. As close to that one as I can. Again, I never really do likenesses very well, but I don't know. There's another face for you to put into my thing. Got all the tree line there. And the wild horses, which I always get killed by in the game. I always use my hat. But as you heard me say to my friend earlier on today, I always knock somebody off there and steal theirs instead. Otherwise, guys, thank you very much for watching. I've been Blut084, BLUT084, and this is Red Dead Redemption. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow for day 29. There are only 3 more days, so don't forget to check these out in the playlist. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now. Yeah!